All right, did you get that? Hey, Joey. I really enjoyed your last two videos about Idea Channel and Avengers Endgame. But now it's time for me to finally talk about something. As you know, I live in Oklahoma City, and today I've decided to look the part and dress like somebody from Oklahoma City. And you might be thinking, Oklahoma City, wouldn't you need to be dressed more like this? And you're not wrong. Oklahoma City is located just north of Texas, and I definitely see people wearing cowboy hats unironically on a regular basis. So yeah, you're not wrong. But if we wanted to be totally accurate, I think we'd need to go for something a little more like this. Because after living in OKC for 2 years, I firmly believe that Oklahoma City is a basketball city. And I can't imagine this place without pro basketball. But it was a city without pro basketball just 11 years ago. Ever since its foundation, Oklahoma City has strived to become a world-class metropolis. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it really has. Throughout its history, Oklahoma City has made tons of moves in an effort to be taken more seriously. I'll give you an example. When you fly into OKC, guess where you arrive? Will Rogers World Airport. Do you want to guess how many international flights are coming in and out of Will Rogers World Airport every week? Let's see, Will Rogers. Oh, it's 0. But it's still called World Airport, not because of the flights that are available there, but because of the attitude Oklahoma City wants to present. We're a world-class metropolis, okay? Take us seriously. But misleading names for buildings will only take an ambitious city so far. If you want to become a big city, you have to make big city moves. And nothing says big city like professional sports. Oh. Just think of what the Bulls have done for Chicago or what the 49ers have done for San Francisco. I mean, just look at the Yankees. Not only is their logo rocked by some of the most iconic people from New York, but it's also rocked by just random people who like the shape of the logo. Even when I went to Europe for spring break, I saw people rocking Yankee hats just because it went really well with their outfit. I really doubt most of them were actual Yankees baseball fans. So it's clear that acquiring a major sports team is huge for any growing city. But before we talk about the Thunder coming to Oklahoma City, we need to talk about Seattle. I'm sure you've heard of Seattle. It's located in the Pacific Northwest, and they're famous for their tech companies and coffee. Seattle is such a successful metropolis that at one point they had 3 major professional sports teams. The Seattle Seahawks in the NFL, the Seattle Mariners in the MLB, and the Seattle Supersonics in the NBA. That's a lot of sports teams, okay? It wouldn't be the end of the world if one of them were to go missing, okay? Or go elsewhere, all right? Okay? It wouldn't be the end of the world. Hey, it wouldn't be the end of the world. On December 20th, 1966, Seattle was awarded an NBA expansion team. At the time, it cost them a little under $2 million to join the league. And why were they called the Supersonics? Well, that was inspired by a big-time government contract that Boeing was working on in their Seattle facilities. The contract was to develop passenger aircrafts that were capable of supersonic flight. In case you didn't know, going supersonic is when you're traveling faster than the speed of sound, which is pretty fast. Having passenger planes capable of supersonic flight would drastically reduce flight times and had the potential to totally revolutionize travel. This truly seemed like the way of the future. Little did anyone know that supersonic travel and the Seattle Supersonics were both doomed, largely due to Oklahoma City. In order to go supersonic, you have to break the sound barrier, which is basically increased drag caused by the compressed air that forms as you approach the speed of sound. Breaking the sound barrier causes a sonic boom, and sonic booms are loud. loud. I used to think sonic booms were just one big explosion you heard when you broke through the sound barrier. It was like crash, boom, and you're on your way, right? Supersonic. Wrong. The sonic boom actually keeps going in the wake of the supersonic aircraft. So if you're taking a flight from New York to San Francisco, you're going to be ripping a loud one all the way across the country. Obviously, Boeing and the US government knew about sonic booms, and they also knew that if supersonic travel was ever going to be a regular thing in the US, then citizens were going to have to be comfortable with hearing sonic booms ripping across the sky on a regular basis. So the FAA decided to see how real people reacted to being bombarded by sonic booms on a daily basis. But where could they test such a chaotic phenomenon? They needed a city that was large enough to matter, but secluded enough that the tests wouldn't bother anyone else. A city that had enough self-respect to see itself as part of the future of supersonic travel, but was also desperate enough to subject itself to violent sonic booms for an extended period of time. And I bet you can already guess that the perfect city was Oklahoma City. You see, at this time, OKC had a bit of a shadow government in the form of the OKC Chamber of Commerce. This was a bunch of business dudes who wanted to see Oklahoma City get bigger and better. So when the FAA came through with an offer like, we'll give you $1 million towards an extra long runway at Will Rogers World Airport, and all you have to do is let us blast you with sonic booms for 6 months straight. Well, I mean, that would definitely inconvenience our citizens, who, by the way, don't have a say in this. Would it really be worth it for us? That extra long runway will make OKC a premier destination for supersonic travel. This will be huge when supersonic travel goes mainstream, which it definitely will. Well, hot dog, sign us up. And thus, Operation Bongo 2 was born, with a single sonic boom ripping across the sky on February 3rd, 1964. The next day, there were 2 sonic booms, and the next day, 3. And on, until there were 8 sonic booms screaming across the sky every single day. The goal here was to measure the boom's effects on structures and public attitude, and to come up with standards for dealing with daily sonic explosions. And what were the results of these daily sonic booms? Well, houses shook, pictures fell, people were rudely wakened from their naps, babies cried, windows cracked, plaster fell from the ceiling. This happened every day for 6 months. Totaling 1,253 sonic booms. Now, the people of Oklahoma are certainly resilient. They deal with massive storms and tornadoes every year, and they still find a way to get by. But even they couldn't stand the sonic booms. Public opinion on the tests were so poor that the FAA actually ended the experiment early once it was clear that nobody was trying to live like this. The negative reviews from the people of Oklahoma City were a huge blow for the prospect of supersonic travel. Boeing was already having trouble justifying the costs of the jets, and the negative backlash ended up being just too severe. By 1971, the United States supersonic program had gone belly up. In fact, in 1973, the United States government officially banned supersonic flight over the U.S. So basically, the people of Oklahoma City suffered through 1,253 sonic booms in an effort to usher in an era of supersonic travel that would never arrive, all for the benefit of a company in Seattle. First off, after 1971, having the name Supersonics for your basketball team was starting to look like a ridiculous choice. But the team itself didn't look entirely too bad. By the end of the decade, the team would hoist the Larry O'Brien Trophy after winning a 5-game final series against the Washington Bullets. This would be their one and only championship, as they wouldn't be able to replicate that kind of success in the 80s or the 90s. And by the 2000s, the team had entered into an era of true mediocrity. I mean, sure, the Supersonics still had a decent fan base, but they were playing second or third fiddle to the Seattle Seahawks and the Seattle Mariners, who were giving them a little bit more to root for at the time. Not to mention that the Supersonics had a small, old arena that desperately needed to be replaced or renovated. It was lacking the amenities that a modern-day NBA arena featured at the time. Ownership tried to secure funding for a new arena by asking the city for money, but ultimately failed to come to an agreement. In 2006, majority owner Howard Schultz of Starbucks fame decided to sell the team on the condition that the buyer promised to try to keep the team in Seattle. Meanwhile, Oklahoma City had an arena, but they were still on the search for an NBA team to put in it. At the time, it was mostly used for concerts and monster truck rallies and minor league hockey games. When Hurricane Katrina destroyed the New Orleans Hornets arena, they found a temporary home in Oklahoma City. Oklahomans showed just how ready they were to be a pro sports fan base by showing up and getting loud for their surrogate NBA team. Oklahomans actually wanted to keep the Hornets, but they ended up going back to New Orleans after their 2-year stint in OKC was over. Also at this time, a powerful group of businessmen were getting together to form Professional Basketball Club LLC, an investment group led by Oklahoma businessman Clay Bennett. Basically, this group of guys had one mission: buy an NBA team and bring it to Oklahoma City. And they found a big opportunity with Howard Schultz. On July 18th, 2006, Howard Schultz sold the Seattle Supersonics and their sister team, the Seattle Storm, to Professional Basketball Club LLC for $350 million. Now remember, they originally paid less than $2 million to acquire the Supersonics back in the 1960s. So without adjusting for inflation, that's over $348 million in profit. You can't be mad at that. Before the purchase went through, Bennett promised Schultz that they would try to make it work in Seattle. And for Bennett, that meant asking the local government for $500 million so that they could build a new sports complex for their newly acquired team. This obviously got denied, and after that happened, Bennett said, "Well, I tried. Off to Oklahoma City with the team." Now, obviously, there were legal consequences to this rash action. Obviously, Howard Schultz thought that they were going to keep the team in Seattle for some reason. But after a bunch of stuff was hashed out in court, Professional Basketball LLC and some of their members had to pay a bunch of fines. But in the end, the team was allowed to move to Oklahoma City. The Seattle Supersonics were no more, and the Oklahoma City Thunder were born. The people of Seattle were not pleased when they lost their beloved Supersonics, and I understand that. They were the city's first professional sports team, and as a true sports fan, I understand that kind of heartbreak. However, many basketball fans across the league saw this as a dirty move by Oklahoma City and resented the Thunder's existence from the very beginning. There are still people today who think the Thunder shouldn't exist and that Oklahoma City should give the team back to Seattle. And to these people, I say, you need to look at the bigger picture. Yes, Oklahoma City may have acquired the Thunder through a less than honest business strategy. But have you forgotten about what happened in the 60s? Have you forgotten what a big-time Seattle company put all of the people of Oklahoma City through for 6 months straight? OKC did not take this team from just any city. This is Seattle we're talking about. These two cities have a history. And by taking the team that was named after the phenomenon that shook this city all those years ago, OKC was just settling the score. Anyways, thanks for listening to me rant about my favorite basketball team. I do really love living here in OKC, and this team is a big reason why. If you want to hear something that won't hurt your ears, make sure you check out our podcast. We make episodes every week, and it's mostly about movies, but sometimes we talk about other stuff. But that's going to do it for this one. So until the next time, I'll see you later.
Bye.